Hello, it's me, Gnomonkey. We're back, and today we are crying in the club over Trouble Brewing. Pour one out for my boy Trouble Brewing. Gone, but not forgotten. If you didn't hear about this, I made a guide on it a while back. This has been in the game for around 6 months that they heavily buffed Trouble Brewing. Basically, it was pretty solid fletching cooking combo method. So you could get a little over 100k fletching XP an hour, along with 200k cooking XP an hour. Pretty solid, not bad at all. Well, Jagex finally caught wind rapidly. After a mere 6 months of being in the game, they caught on, and they have completely butchered it. They give all the changed XP rates. Basically, it's a little under 1/3 of what it was, so it's completely dead. There is no reason to ever come and do this. Hey, they also patched the thing where you only get fire making XP in the one boiler, but they won't give you XP, so unlucky. What a shame! Unlucky, unlucky. Before I get into the video today, I'd like to shout out the sponsor, Marvel Strikeforce. We've all heard of Marvel, and with the latest uproar in the gaming scene, I thought it'd be a great time to check out some new mobile games. Marvel Strikeforce is a mobile squad RPG that allows you to battle with your favorite team of superheroes and supervillains in a fight to save the universe. Your goal is to power up your favorite character to complete missions, unlock gear and other resources, and to beat other players in PvP modes such as Alliance War and Arena. If you are looking for a new mobile game to dive into, this definitely gets my vote. Immerse yourself in the universe of the Marvel Strikeforce with their diverse roster of character choices, which is something I really appreciate in games like this, and variety of game mode choices to keep you from getting bored. If you love Marvel, which who doesn't love Marvel, then you're going to love what this new mobile game has to offer and is packed into it. Download Marvel Strikeforce today, free on the mobile Apple Store or your Google Play Store. So basically, this reeks of them wanting to push the new fletching activity when that comes out, and this was stepping on their toes a little bit. You have a means of training fletching. The XP rates sound good, but in reality, this already was not like EHP at all. I had a lot of the HLC Iron Man guys laughing at me. Cooking Karam 1 is so insane, and fletching broad arrows is so ridiculous with the 0-time fletching that doing this is not even really worth it. It's a nice option very early on if you can rush here. Decent quest requirements, a lot of stats in the 40s and 50s, including prayer that you have to get up first. But if you manage to do that fairly early on an account, you have a decent method that doesn't scale and gives you a flat 200k cooking, 100k fletching. It was pretty solid, but Jagex had issue with it. So this is what they're replacing it with if you haven't caught on. This is the fletching activity that's coming with Varlamore Part 3. The idea is that you're able to recycle logs, bows, and shields to make these totems. And there will be all of these totem sites around Varlamore that we will be running around. So it's go to a site, build all the totems. These Ents are going to visit and drop off rewards, including XP. And then you're going to run to the next site because they'll continue interacting with those totems while you're gone. It kind of feels like birdhouse runs that you actively train, which honestly sounds decent. They mentioned that you can do 0-time stuff while running between them, like blowing glass, that kind of thing. And also there's access to banks through the entire method. So it honestly seems like a decent method. I'm not sure I fully agree that these have to be mutually exclusive though. That seems a little weird to me. We'll get into that in a second. What were the rewards for this? You had the bowstring spool. So this is a single inventory slot spool that holds up to 270 strings, and it just allows you to string 27 bows at a time. That's very solid, a very decent reward. This fletching knife, every 5 bows or so, gives you a chance to speed up your fletching speed. I'm curious if this is going to work for teak log tick manip. If you don't know, cutting a teak log is 3 tick. So I'm wondering if 1 out of 5 times you're going to have the ability to 2 tick other stuff. Might have some use. I'm assuming they'd block that and they're aware of that. We'll see. I would bet they wouldn't make it work on teaks, but curious if that has some use. Could be. They also mentioned these whittling blades that you can purchase just straight up for GP from the shop after you have the plans to make them. Basically, these are just a chance that when you're chopping stuff with them in your inventory, you're turning them into arrow shafts. So kind of nice. It's going to be really handy for trying to AFK longer while woodcutting and that kind of thing. I could definitely see these being decent. They also mentioned these Ent branches that you get as an uncommon drop, but they allow you to make enhanced bird snares, net trap kits, and box traps. And these would have a 50% chance to reset themselves if it fails, which is a huge buff to Hunter, actually. I could see this being insane for box traps for chins, because chins are already really, really good Hunter XP. So if you get to use these on top, it's going to be kind of crazy. So they've specifically made these. You can't pick them back up after you've placed them, and you have to wait until they collapse after 10 minutes. So this is kind of more of an AFK kind of option for people who don't want to do tick manip for traps and that kind of thing. It's not terrible. Not a terrible addition. Less interaction needed, perfect for a more relaxed style of Hunter. This is kind of nice because Hunter really lacks that. Usually you have to train it actively or like run birdhouses or that kind of thing. So I'm okay with this kind of thing being added. I also mentioned you could spend these to get access like temporarily to a new Slayer area. I'm not really sure what getting these logs from Fletching has to do with accessing a Slayer dungeon temporarily. It's kind of strange to me. I feel like this would be a better reward from like Mocha or something, since that's coming out at the same time. I'm not really sure why that comes from the Fletching activity, but okay. I honestly, I'd prefer to see it come from someplace else. I don't really get the idea with this. But they also mentioned these darts. Using an Ent branch on leaves allows you to make these darts. Getting leaves is really annoying, so I'm not sure how collecting these is going to be, but the idea is that they can be used for some kind of debuff that they hadn't figured out yet. So their ideas were non-stacking attack and defense reduction against undead creatures. There's not... The only undead thing I can think of in like PVM is Vorkath, which would probably be good on, or Bloat, but I don't know. If you have to land a hit against Bloat with a ranged weapon, I don't think it will ever work for you, but might have some weird small uses. I don't know. And then a binding effect that roots the target, like a dart that binds things. It's kind of interesting. So maybe you could use that against Maiden and Tob or something like that. I could see that being interesting. They got some interesting ideas here. Maybe a combination of the two would be kind of cool. Could see something like this. Okay, I mean, like the activity seems okay. The question is, why do we need to kill off these hybrid methods? If we go back to Trouble Brewing, there's very few things in the game that give like hybrid XP. The main thing that comes to mind is like drift net fishing or like underwater agility, like the things on Fossil Island, where you're getting like decent XP in 2 different skills at once. I feel like these hybrid methods are really rare and they're really fun and engaging when they do exist, when they suit what you're trying to do. When your account needs 2 of a skill and you get a big bonus for going and doing a method that gives you some hybrid XP in both, I think those are really fun and very underutilized. They typically don't make anything like that in the game anymore. And I think a big reason is that people don't really interact with the Fossil Island stuff, so I think they figured it just didn't work. But there's a lot of good reasons people don't interact with that, like underwater agility is really clunky. Drift net is great, but you have to go make those stupid nets. So for Iron Man, it's not really fun to do. And there's no pet chance from anything that I just mentioned. So there's reasons beyond just it being hybrid that keep these things from being fun. Trouble Brewing was great. It was really fun. Had some major downsides though. Big quest requirements. You needed a second player to access it, which encouraged some communication and group play. It also just isn't as good as some of the best methods for either of these. Even when you consider the combined XP, it's still not the best option. So it more so comes out as like an early hybrid method. This is really not like meta in any way. There is no way that Trouble Brewing is like disgustingly overpowered and everyone must use it. It's good. It's good. And if it suits like where you're at in your account, like you're kind of lower level, something like that, you rushed here, like it's pretty solid, no input cost on these decent XP rates. Like it was a decent method. There's also just no rewards for Trouble Brewing. Sure, you get a little bit of the stuff for brewing. Who is actually brewing ales though? So the only reward from Trouble Brewing is cosmetics and a teleport back. It's decent, but you're not going to see anything like with the Fletching minigame where you're getting like this thing that boosts your Fletching, this thing that boosts your Hunter, this thing, like none of that. So you're trading, the idea that these cannot exist together is kind of crazy to me. And I don't really understand why Jagex feels that they need to pave over these like kind of interesting, like weird methods that crop up. I think some of the most interesting and fun skilling methods are the ones that are a little weird, a little like out of the norm. I've been messing around with a lot of like kind of weird tick manipulation methods. I was doing on my Iron Man, I was doing trout salmon fishing and also cooking each fish that I got at the same time. And trying to do that was like, it's a very difficult method. And if you master it, you get a bunch of cooking XP on top of your fishing. I like this idea of these like kind of weird things that people figure out that let you get like hybrid XP. It's kind of really fun. And Jagex seems set on everything must have one skilling mini game, and that's how you go train it. You want to train fire making? You go to Wintertot. You want to train fishing? You go to Temperos. You want to train Fletching? This Trouble Brewing thing's not going to be it. You're going to want to go to the new mini game. Like everything just gets paved over, and the new thing is the way you train the skill. And I don't think it needs to be this way. I think skills can be really fleshed out, and having these hybrid skilling methods are really cool. They add a lot to the game. They add a lot of value. I would love to see them reconsider this. It doesn't need to be nerfed at all. Some people are saying like they nerfed it too much. They should have nerfed it less. I don't think they should have nerfed it because it already wasn't meta. No one in like the Iron Man discords or anything were having like records broken or anything like this. This is not meta. It is better to go get broad arrows arrows unlock and do broads, and it is better to buy Karambon and cook those with GP you've earned from other methods. Like, it just straight up is worse. It just is an option if you don't want to put in input. Even though it's better to do those other methods, this gave you something that's like, okay, 0 input cost, go over there, get no rewards, but at least you're training the skills. And you've got kind of these weird mechanics you're interacting with, like disease, that kind of thing. It was a lot of fun. It really was kind of fun. A lot of the mini games they've been adding lately have been kind of hit or miss. You've seen forestry, which I don't know, that's a whole thing in itself, but forestry is just like, it has so much bloat in it. There's so much stuff that is just unnecessary. So many funny, wacky tokens, funny eggs, funny mini games. There's 18 different types of mini game. You're still just chopping trees and you occasionally do a different thing. It doesn't really add very much to the gameplay. And those little tiny random events you do are like, stand in place for 10 seconds. Now stand on this tile for 10 seconds. Now stand on this tile for 10. They're just not engaging. And they've also had this with Giant's Foundry. I've been doing a lot of that on the Iron Man. It's just not a fun gameplay loop. Giant's Foundry heavily penalizes you for AFKing. You lose a huge amount of the XP on your sword if you do AFK, but there's also just so little input. You're literally just staring as your character hammers the sword for 15 seconds doing nothing. But if you AFK 17 seconds, you lose 2,000 XP. It's so frustrating. It's not fun. It's not engaging. I'm okay with mixology. They've been adding some okay ones. Goater is really fun. I really enjoy Temperos. It has a lot of varying methods going for it. But a lot of times these mini games are like very hit or miss. Like they're either engaging or they're just mind numbing. Honestly, this Fletching mini game, I think is going to lean towards mixology. I think it is going to be better. But the fact they have to pave over these old methods that have cropped up, that people have come up with, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't really get why this had to happen. It seems like somehow the JMods didn't notice. They noticed that people were getting good rates at a place that wasn't intended to. And they're like, oh, quick nerf it. Quick nerf it. Oh, we got to get rid of that. And it's like, man, can we just relax a little bit? Like, it's not necessary. It's just really not necessary. I would love for each skill to have a bunch of different fleshed out methods with varying different hybrid options between skills. Just a bunch of options. So just depending on where you're at in your account, do you have GP? Do you not have GP? Are you lower stats? Are you higher stats? You're always having like gauging options to go train with, and getting rid of old methods doesn't encourage that. It discourages that. It encourages you to go, okay, I'm fletching. Let me go to the new fletching activity, where it could have been a choice. It could have been, hey, I need cooking XP and I need that fletching XP. Maybe I'm going to do both at Trouble Brewing. Oh, but I lose out on the rewards of the fletching activity. It's kind of, you have this like this fun back and forth where you're like trying to choose what skilling method works for you. It makes skilling a lot better. And we all know that skilling in RuneScape is plenty grindy as it is. It doesn't need to be less fleshed out. So yeah, definitely leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Let me know what you think below. Do you want to see more hybrid methods like I do? I'm not sure if I'm the only person that likes DriftNet, but I feel like more hybrid methods would be really fun. I'd love to see them add more of those personally. And let me know if you think they should revert the nerf on Trouble Brewing, because I definitely feel like it wasn't OP. It just was solid. So leave a like if you liked it and or subscribe. Thanks, guys.